Hey everyone, I've been reading stories on this channel for a long time and never thought I would have one of my own to tell. But life sometimes creates situations that you just can't believe are happening to you. I've been carrying this story inside me for several months, and now I finally want to tell it from beginning to end without holding anything back. Anna and I had been together for 6 years, 4 of them married. Honestly, I really believed everything was fine between us. Not perfect, of course, but good. We went through the usual relationship ups and downs that every couple experiences, arguments over small things, periods when one of us was too tired or too focused on work. But overall, we were that couple other people sometimes looked at and thought they really have it together. We had our own inside jokes that no one else understood. We could argue for hours about what series to watch next, and it never felt annoying. She loved planning spontaneous date nights. Sometimes it was just staying in with favorite food and a movie, sometimes something more thought out. In return, after her long work days, I often brought home whatever she liked to eat, even if it was just fast food. It felt like we had found a good balance where neither of us felt pressured, but both felt cared for. Then, about 6 months ago, things slowly started to change. At first, it was small things that I kept telling myself were just in my head. She began carrying her phone with her absolutely everywhere. Even when she went to the bathroom, even when she was just standing in the kitchen making coffee. Before that, her phone would often just lie on the coffee table or kitchen counter for hours. She didn't mind if I picked it up to check something or answer a call from her MOM. Now, the phone never left her side. One time I joked, "Are you running some kind of secret organization? Why has your phone become your third hand?" She laughed, but the laugh sounded a bit forced. "No, work has just been really active lately. I don't want to miss important emails." I nodded and let it go, but a small unpleasant feeling appeared inside me. A few days later, it got even stranger. She put a password on her phone. Not just a simple PIN, but a full password with letters and numbers. Her phone had never had any protection before. When I calmly asked why, without any aggression, she gave a vague answer about hackers on the internet and that it was better to be safe. I didn't push. But this was the first thing that made me seriously start thinking. Why now? What had happened that she suddenly decided to lock her phone even from me? After that, the calls started. She began taking them and going into another room or out onto the balcony. Before, she would comfortably talk on the phone in front of me, even if it was work-related. Now, every time her phone rang, she would quickly say, "Wait, this will be quick," and disappear. If I asked later who called, the answer was always the same. Just a colleague from work, something work-related, and her phone was almost always lying face down. One time I reached across the table to hand her something, and she quickly moved the phone away so fast that I was surprised. She tried to play it off as a normal movement, but I noticed at the same time. Our communication started changing. Conversations became shorter and more surface level. If before we could talk for hours about anything, now she avoided many topics, especially anything about the future. I could say something like, "Hey, maybe we should go somewhere for our anniversary. Or let's think about getting a new car. Ours is getting old." She would nod, say, "Yeah, good idea, we'll see," and quickly change the subject to what to cook for dinner or something that happened at work. It wasn't rude, but it felt like she was avoiding any conversations about our shared future. Everything finally came together in my head one day. She said she was going to grab coffee with a friend after work. Nothing unusual. I happened to have some errands in that area and decided to surprise her, just walk into the CAF and sit with her for a bit. When I arrived, I saw her not inside, but outside pacing in front of the CAF while talking on the phone. Her face looked serious and she was gesturing with her free hand. I decided not to go in right away and stayed in the car. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the window was slightly open and I heard several phrases. "It's almost all ready. Soon we can start fresh. You just don't understand how important this is." Her voice sounded tense and at the same time excited, not the way she talked to friends about normal things. It sounded like she was discussing something big and serious. I sat in the car for another 10 minutes after she finished the call. Many thoughts were spinning in my head. Maybe it was just work. Maybe she had problems and didn't want to worry me. But something about all of this didn't add up. When she came home, I calmly asked how coffee with her friend went. She quickly started telling some story about her friend having boyfriend problems and crying. I listened and knew it wasn't the full truth, or at least not the complete truth. Then she herself brought up finances. I was thinking, she said, maybe we should gather all our account information, online banking passwords, and property documents in one place. Just in case. What if something happens? I asked what she meant by, what if something happens? She shrugged and said she just wanted to be prepared. What if someone gets sick? Or we need to make a quick financial decision? It's better to have everything at hand. I nodded. But inside everything was ringing. Why now? Why had she suddenly started worrying about having all passwords and documents in one place? A few days later, she brought up the topic again. I was standing in the kitchen making myself a sandwich when she asked from the table, "Have you already gathered all the account information? I am just curious if you know where everything is stored." I put the knife down and turned to her. "Anna, what's going on?" I asked directly. "This is the second time this week you've brought this up. If something's wrong, let's just talk about it." She looked up, surprised. "Nothing's wrong. I just think it's important. For emergencies." Her voice was calm, but I could see she was tense. I didn't push further at that moment, but I had already decided that something was definitely happening. The next day, while she was at work, I checked our joint account. What I saw finally made me seriously worried. Over the past month, there had been several withdrawals of small amounts. Nothing huge, but these amounts didn't match our usual spending. Not for utilities, not for groceries, not for gas. Just cash withdrawals or transfers. I didn't want to jump to the worst conclusions immediately, but it looked like she had been taking money out without a clear reason. I called Andrew, my old university friend who had become a lawyer. We didn't talk very often, but I trusted him. I told him everything that had been happening lately and what I had seen in the account. He listened and said calmly, "Listen, I can't say for sure that something is going on, but you're not paranoid for wanting to protect yourself. If you have doubts about your assets, it's better to do something now while there's still time. It's better to have protection and not need it than to not have it and regret it later." I thought about this conversation for 2 days. I kept going back and forth. On one hand, this was our marriage. We had been together for 6 years. Transferring everything to my MOM felt like admitting I no longer believed in us. On the other hand, Anna's behavior, the conversation outside the CAF, the persistent talks about finances, and the unexplained withdrawals, all of it together painted a very unpleasant picture. I didn't want to believe the worst, but I also didn't want to end up in a situation where she filed for divorce and took half of everything we had built together. In the end, I decided to act. While Anna was out, I started the process. I transferred the main money and investments to accounts that were solely in my name, then set up a trust under my mom's name. I also transferred the house into the trust. I left enough in the joint account so it wouldn't raise suspicion, and so we could still pay current expenses. It was hard, really hard. I sat at the laptop and felt something heavy and unpleasant settling in my chest. It felt like I was betraying the person I love, but at the same time, a thought kept circling in my head. What if I don't do this, and she really is planning something bad? I called my MOM. I explained that I needed to put some things in her name, just in case, and that it was temporary. She didn't ask too many questions, but I could hear the worry in her voice. "Son, are you sure everything is okay?" she asked. I told her everything was fine. I just wanted to be safe. She agreed to help. When Anna came home that evening, everything was already done. She was in a good mood, kissed me, and suggested we watch a movie. I agreed and tried to act normal, but inside, everything was turned upside down. The next 2 weeks were strange. Anna became noticeably more affectionate and talkative. She started touching me more often, laughing at my jokes, suggesting we do things together. She completely stopped bringing up finances. It felt like everything had gone back to normal, but I couldn't fully relax. I noticed how she sometimes looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. The look was strange, like she was evaluating something, or waiting. A few times I caught myself thinking that she wanted to say something but didn't. It was unpleasant. Then everything happened on one Friday. We were sitting on the couch watching something on TV. She suddenly grabbed the remote, turned the TV off, and turned to me. "We need to talk," she said calmly. I already knew what was coming. "I think we should get a divorce," she continued. Her voice was even. No tears, no hysteria. Just a statement of fact. She said she needed space, that she wanted to understand who she was without the marriage, that she felt like she had lost herself. Then she added the sentence that hit the hardest. I've made so many sacrifices for you over these years. I deserve more. I sat and listened. Inside, I felt empty. I didn't start arguing or begging her to stay. I just said that if that's how she felt, then we would figure out the next steps. She looked surprised by my reaction. I could see it on her face. The divorce papers came the next day. The demands were harsh. She wanted half the house, half of all savings and investments, the car, and spousal support on top of that, even though she earned a good salary. I understood that this wasn't just an emotional decision from one person. Someone had been actively helping her and telling her what and how to demand. I started checking her social media. She hadn't blocked me. I saw that some guy named Vlad had been very actively liking and commenting on her posts recently. Nothing explicit, but enough to notice. When I went to his profile, I saw a photo from the same CF where I had seen her. The date matched. Then I messaged one of our mutual friends, Emma. After a long conversation, she admitted that Anna had been talking to Vlad from work for several months and that he had been actively helping her approach the divorce the right way. One evening, I parked a block away from the apartment she had moved into. I waited for several hours. Eventually, they came out together. Anna and Vlad. They were walking close to each other, talking, leaning in. They weren't holding hands, but it was clear there was more between them than just friendship. They got into his car and drove away. I sat in my car for a long time after they disappeared. My mind was blank. At mediation, everything happened quickly. Her lawyer came in with a thick folder and started listing all the demands as if they were completely fair. When it was our turn, my lawyer simply presented the documents showing that all major assets had been transferred into an irrevocable trust under my mother's name several weeks before she filed for divorce. Everything had been done legally with a notary and was irreversible. The room went quiet. Anna took the papers and started flipping through them. Her face changed, first surprise, then anger. "You planned this," she said quietly but angrily. "You knew I was going to file, and you did this on purpose." I didn't answer. I just sat and looked at her. Her lawyer realized they had no moves left. The case was already lost before it really began. After mediation, Anna completely fell apart. At first, there were calls. Lots of calls. Sometimes she cried and said she had made a mistake. Sometimes she screamed and blamed me for everything. Then she started telling mutual friends that it had been a test or a joke. But the story quickly fell apart. People started asking questions. If it was a joke, why file real paperwork and hire a lawyer? Then the messages appeared. Someone from our mutual circle sent screenshots of conversations between Anna and Vlad. In them, she wrote that once we settle the money issue with him, we'll have everything we need for a new life. Vlad replied, "Don't back down. Make him feel guilty. He owes you for all these years." They were planning how she would get the maximum and how they would start their life together afterward. When these messages became public, everything ended. Friends who had previously doubted or believed her turned away. Vlad disappeared. Anna was left alone. The calls became desperate. She begged to talk, said she was willing to do anything to fix the situation. But it was already too late. The divorce was finalized. She took only her personal belongings. I was left with the house, the savings, and finally peace. Peace that I hadn't felt in a very long time.